heard in years. We were just two people on the sand. But we weren't. We were a mother and son. We were something sacred. Or, at least, we were supposed to be. I'd packed sandwiches, brought the big towel we always shared. I even remembered the sunscreen for once. I was really trying to be present, to be close. I told myself it was a bonding day, just the two of us. But life has a way of twisting your intentions, of peeling back the layers you thought were tightly wrapped and showing you the mess underneath. Because out there, with the ocean stretching endlessly in front of us and no one else in sight, he did something I never expected. Something so small. And yet it split the world in two. I still don't know if it was the look in his eyes, or the way his hand lingered for just a second too long. Or maybe it was the way my own heart didn't flinch like it should have. I remember the exact shade of the water that day. The salt in the air. The way the seagulls cried like they were warning me. But I didn't listen. Because in that moment, I wasn't thinking like a mother. I was just a woman. A woman who hadn't felt truly seen in years. I didn't ask for it. I didn't plan for it. But something shifted between us on that beach, quietly, dangerously. And I haven't looked at him the same way since. Was it my fault that I didn't stop him fast enough? Or was it something I needed, and didn't even know I'd been starving for? Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold to explore the stories we never speak aloud, but carry in the silence of our souls. We were a family. The kind that looked fine from the outside. 2 parents. 1 son. A house, routines, quiet dinners. Nothing loud. Nothing broken. But everything fading. My husband, he was the dependable type. Always there, always doing what needed to be done. But his presence didn't reach me anymore. He'd become a man of numbers, schedules, silence. The kind who forgot anniversaries, but always remembered to take out the trash. We hadn't touched each other with meaning in years. Not out of anger, just absence. It's strange how you can share a bed, brush shoulders in the hallway, pass the salt at dinner, and still feel like strangers. And then there was my son. 17. Tall, quiet, always thinking. He felt things deeper than he let on. You could see it in his eyes. He was nothing like his father. When I spoke, he listened. When I cried. Quietly, behind bathroom doors, he seemed to sense it. Sometimes I wondered if he noticed more than he should. I used to love the beach. Not for the sun or the swimming, but for the stillness. It was the one place where I could just be. No phone ringing. No forced conversations. Just the sky, the tide, the breath between waves. That summer, we rented a small cabin by the coast. 1 week. Just us. A chance to reconnect, I told myself. To be a family again. To fix what had gone numb. But really, I think I just wanted to remember who I was. Before motherhood swallowed me whole. Before marriage wore me down into a shadow. Before I became the background in my own life. I packed the car. I made the plans. I told them it would be good for us. But deep down, I wasn't trying to save us. I think I was trying to save me. And I had no idea what it would cost. It started simple. A walk. Just the two of us. My husband was inside the cabin, door shut, phone glued to his ear. Probably in one of his long, half-angry work calls that made the air in the house feel heavy. So we left. Me and my son. We didn't say much at first. Just walked along the shoreline. The tide was pulling out, leaving behind little pools in the sand, tiny worlds for us to step around. The wind was soft. The sky gray but peaceful. And in that quiet, something shifted. He reached out and brushed a bit of sand off my shoulder. It should have meant nothing. But his fingers, they didn't just brush. They stayed. Long enough for me to notice. Long enough for me to feel something stir in my chest that had no business being there. I didn't look at him right away. But I felt his eyes on me, not like a son admiring his mother. Not innocent. Not simple. When I did look up, he was already looking. And not away, not embarrassed or distracted. He held my gaze. And that look, it stopped something in me. There was no smile at first. Just stillness. Like we'd both stepped into a space we didn't plan to enter. Then, slowly, he gave me that soft, closed-mouth smile, the kind you give someone when you see them. Not for who they're supposed to be, but for who they are. And maybe for what they've forgotten they could be. I told myself I imagined it. That I was reading too much into nothing. That it was just my lonely mind twisting an innocent moment. But when his hand lingered on my arm as we stepped around a tidal, when he laughed, low, like a secret, and said, "Careful, Mom, don't fall," something in the way he said Mom didn't feel like safety. It felt charged. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But something passed between us in that silence, like the air had changed shape, like the space between us wasn't as innocent as it had been. And I didn't stop it. I didn't say a word. Just kept walking beside him. Like I didn't feel the heat rising in my skin. Like I wasn't suddenly hyper-aware of how close he was. Of how grown he looked that day. Of how long it had been since someone had looked at me like I mattered. I told myself I imagined it. But when his hand lingered, when he smiled that soft, closed-mouth smile, I knew. He felt it too. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I lay there with my back to my husband, listening to the slow rhythm of his breathing, steady, predictable, untouched by anything I was feeling. But inside me, there was a storm I couldn't quiet. My mind kept circling back. To the beach. To the way my son looked at me. To the way his hand stayed a moment too long. To the silence that stretched between us like a line that shouldn't be crossed, but already had been. I stared at the ceiling, asking myself the same question over and over again. What was that? What did it mean? And why? Why did part of me want to feel it again? I told myself I should talk to him. I should make it clear. Draw the line. Reclaim the space that belonged to being his mother. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because for the first time in what felt like years, someone had looked at me like I mattered. Not because I did the laundry. Not because I made dinner or paid the bills. But because I was me. A woman. And it wasn't just the look. It was how I responded to it. How I froze. How I didn't stop it. How something deep inside me, something that's been so quiet for so long, woke up. I hated that feeling, but I also craved it. The next morning, I sat at the little table by the window in the cabin. My husband was already gone for a run. I was still in my robe, still trying to gather myself. And then he came in, my son holding 2 mugs of coffee. One for him, one for me. Cream and no sugar. Just how I like it. He smiled, said nothing, just placed it down beside me and pulled up a chair. Too close. Closer than he needed to. His knee brushed mine under the table. He didn't pull away. And neither did I. We sat there, the silence thick, the coffee untouched. I didn't look at him, but I could feel him watching me. And my skin tingled, not from fear, but from awareness. That feeling being seen, being wanted. It was like a drug. And I was starving. Was it loneliness? Desperation? Or just the raw, aching hunger of being noticed again? Of being something more than a title, more than mom, more than wife. Just me. I hated myself for it. But I couldn't deny it. It felt good to be looked at that way. Even if it was wrong. Even if it shattered everything I believed I was. What kind of mother doesn't move? We returned to the beach every morning. Just us. My husband stopped asking. He'd wake up, lace up his running shoes, scroll through his emails, and disappear into his world of deadlines and silence. He never noticed how long we were gone. He never asked what we talked about. And maybe part of me was relieved. Because the truth was, I didn't want to explain it. We walked slowly. Sometimes talking, sometimes not. He started teasing me. Said the sun made my eyes look like gold. Joked about the way I walked barefoot, how I winced at cold water like a kid. He didn't call me Mom during those walks. He called me beautiful. Just beautiful. and I told him to stop. But I laughed, and when he said it again the next day, whispered it, almost under his breath, I didn't correct him. I told myself it was harmless, that he was just being sweet, that I was imagining the weight in his words, the meaning in his stare. But deep down, I wasn't imagining anything. One morning, we sat on the rocks, watching the tide roll in. I tucked my hair behind my ear, and he reached over and brushed a strand from my face. His fingers grazed my cheek. Soft, slow, intentional. I should have pulled away, but I didn't. I leaned into it. Just a little, just enough. And he noticed. I saw it in his eyes. Something flickered there, something that scared me. Not because it was dangerous, but because it was real. That evening, the sky turned orange. The waves came in rougher than usual. We stayed out too long. I slipped on a patch of wet stone. He caught me. Fast. Strong. His arms wrapped tight around my waist, pulling me against him. I looked up at him. And he didn't let go. Not right away. His hand moved from my waist to the small of my back. And I felt his breath. Warm against my temple. Too close. Too long. We didn't speak. We just stood there, locked in that moment, hearts racing, water crashing behind us like a warning. I finally stepped back, mumbled something about needing to dry off. But my hands were shaking, and so were his. That night, I couldn't eat. Couldn't look my husband in the eye. Couldn't stop hearing my son's voice calling me beautiful. In his eyes, I didn't see a boy anymore. And I was afraid. Afraid of how I liked it. What kind of woman does? The moon was high that night. Big. Round. Hung low in the sky like it was watching. Like it knew something was about to happen. And it was holding its breath. The beach was empty. Everyone else had gone in. Lights from the cabins blinked in the distance, warm and safe. But where we were, it was just shadows and waves. We told my husband we'd be back soon. Said we just wanted to take a short walk. Stretch our legs. Collect a few more seashells before the tide swallowed them up. It sounded innocent. It even felt innocent at first. He walked beside me, not speaking much. The kind of silence that hums with tension, like something waiting just below the surface. Every step, every glance. It was all building to something we didn't have the courage to name. I bent to pick up a shell. A little white one with ridges like soft ribs. And then I felt his hand on my back. Not accidental. Not casual. Firm. Still. Intentional. I froze. My heart stopped. Not because I was scared, but because I wasn't. I stood up slowly. Turned to face him. And there he was. Just looking at me. No fear. No hesitation. Just waiting. Like he already knew. Like he was sure I wouldn't stop him. And I wasn't sure he was wrong. Everything in me was screaming. This is the moment. This is the line. This is where you put it all back in the box and walk away. But I didn't. He stepped forward. Closed the space between us. Lifted his hand to my face. And I didn't flinch. I didn't pull away. I didn't breathe. He kissed me. Soft. Trembling. First on my cheek. Then, gently, on my lips. Not rushed. Not forceful. But full of something that felt like need. Or maybe confusion. Or maybe both. And I let him. I stood there on that quiet, moonlit beach, with the waves whispering their secrets behind us, and I let him. That kiss wasn't long, but it held 1,000 things. Loneliness, desire, guilt, longing, and something darker. When it ended, we didn't say a word. We just stared at each other like strangers who just watched something inside them break and spill out onto the sand. I turned away first. My lips still tingling, my chest tight, and I let him. That moment shattered everything I thought I was, and somehow rebuilt something else in its place. Something I still don't know how to name. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold for the twists we never expect, but can't look away from. He pulled away first. Slowly. Like even he wasn't sure what he'd just done, or what it meant. I didn't move. I just stood there, my lips still warm, my breath trapped somewhere in my throat. I could taste the salt from the sea breeze, and something else. Something bitter. Something forbidden. The waves kept rolling in, like nothing had happened. But inside me, everything had shifted. Like a crack had opened in my chest, and I couldn't close it. We didn't speak on the walk back. Not a word. Our footsteps sank into the wet sand, side by side, but it felt like there was a mile between us. He didn't look at me, and I couldn't bear to look at him. The cabin lights were on,